Hello.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Good, good, good. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can indeed, yeah.
Gentleman. Johnny, listen, I appreciate you jumping on. Like the rest of us, you're a busy man.
No, no worries. No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. This is a first for Keepie Uppies. I think you're our first goalkeeper
Oh, okay.
and the first player to have his own song. So we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Right, okay.
So how are you? You working, training?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, working away. We've been off obviously since the cup final. Started back there so actually took a little bit longer this year off. Just to rest and recover. It was a long season. Started back doing little bits and pieces last week. Was in with the goalkeeping coach this week, getting a couple of sessions in, and then we're back in the pre-season next Thursday, this day week.
Crazy. So ahead of the game, you have to keep on top of it.
You have to. It comes round thick and fast. And we've only got 2 weeks in terms of training, and then the first European games the third week. It's in the middle of the third week we're back in, so just trying to get the hard yards in early doors.
Absolutely, no rest for the wicked. Well, listen, this podcast, I'm not sure if you're aware of us at all, but it's just an opportunity to reflect and kind of look back, celebrate yourself and celebrate some of the players you played with. So some of the questions I've sent, sort of leads on to that. Again, for us, this was born out of lockdown, and as you say now, lockdown's done. You've had a long season, and you've only 2 weeks to call your own before you're back at it again.
Absolutely.
So Johnny, we'll get straight into it. So say goalkeeper, which is a first for us. Through your early years, who was your inspiration? Did you want to be a goalkeeper from the very beginning, or was it something that you stumbled upon?
When I first started playing football, I actually played as a centre forward. That was flipping me. I was 10 years of age. We actually went to a game one day. It was Seapatrick. I was playing for at the time, and turned up to a game one day, and the goalkeeper, I think he wasn't well. He wasn't there anyway. We had no goalkeeper. So the manager was like, we need a goalkeeper. Anybody fancy doing it? Help us out. And I says, I'll give it a go. And absolutely fell in love with it. Now I think we were absolutely battered that day. I think we were beat 5 or 6, but just absolutely loved it. That diving about and stuck in the mud, if you like. Just absolutely fell in love with goalkeeping. It was something so innocuous that the goalkeeper didn't turn up and stuck the gloves on, jumped in goal, and as I said, just fell in love with it. And it was then something that I wanted to pursue, something I wanted to try, and the rest is history, as they say.
Brilliant. Was there any particular goalkeeper you'd have favoured yourself with growing up? Watching as you try to learn the trade.
Growing up and trying to learn and watch goalkeepers, there was actually 2 that I really enjoyed watching, and that was Shay Given and Andy Gorham. And later on in my career, I was actually very fortunate to spend a short period of time at the same club as Andy Gorham. So growing up watching Andy and admiring him from a distance, to actually have the opportunity and to train day in, day out alongside him was, it was unbelievable. And it's awful to see what the goalie's going through at the minute, and everybody's best wishes and prayers are with him. But a phenomenal character, and what a goalkeeper he was for Rangers and for Scotland, and also when he went down to England. He was just an absolute legend. And also watching, Shay Given closely throughout the years was someone else that I looked up to when I was younger. Just to try and learn from them basically, and see things that they'd done in certain situations in games, and how they handled football and all that throws at you.
Fantastic. I'd say Andy Gorham, that Rangers team, there were Richard Gough and boys that got characters that, as I say, you'd have learnt a lot from.
Oh, absolutely. And it was at a time when the old firm was you know, it was really fierce. The rivalry was unbelievable. You know, and also, you know, you probably more teams in the SPL that were providing an even bigger challenge than what we see today. So, you know, to watch Andy Gorham in his prime and in that era in that Rangers team was, you know, it was excellent just to, as I said, to watch and try and learn and pick up little bits and pieces of what he done.
Brilliant. So my co-host Niall, he's maybe been engaging with you prior to this, he's a few questions here, and he sort of references that. He says, so he remembers you many moons ago during Northern Ireland schoolboy trials, and you as a goalkeeper, you were cool and calm and completely commanded your box. So again, back to sort of who you're following yourself with, was this something that came naturally to you at such a young age? Was it something that you worked on over time?
Probably something that I had to work at a little bit. Going into the goalkeeping sort of position was obviously new to me, because I'd played as a centre forward in my younger days. You know, I think everybody, you know, when they're a kid, that's what they want to be. They want to be a centre forward. They want to score goals. But going into goalkeeping, it was totally new. So it was learning a completely different position. It was trying to watch and learn and pick up all the bits and pieces, all the crafts of the trade that other people had and the more experienced people had. You know, and I very quickly learned that if you could become a good communicator and you could read the game and learn the game, it made your job so much easier, because you could get everybody else to do the work for you, so that you actually didn't have to make any saves during the game. So, you know, it's a massive part of goalkeeping: organisation, communication, being able to read the game and understand the game. And as I say, you know, goalkeepers pride themselves on clean sheets. So if we can get the other 10 in front of us doing their job, you know, we don't want to have a save to make on a match day. We want to stand there and keep clean sheets. So no, it was something that was developed over time, and you know, my whole experience of football and the different goalkeepers I worked with throughout my career, you know, it was something that was always pivotal to goalkeeping, that you've got to be a good communicator and a good understanding of the game as a whole.
Oh, fantastic. So bring us on that journey, just up in your younger years from Seapatrick then. Was it Lisburn Youth you played for as well? Just bring us on that.
It was indeed. Yeah, so started off at Seapatrick, and then had the opportunity to go to Lisburn Youth, where we were very successful as a team, you know, with some really good players. You know, going back a little bit, the Seapatrick again was brilliant just to get involved in football, to see what the coaches gave to that team at Seapatrick, you know, the players, the commitment, everything at such a young age. We probably didn't realise, but now reflecting where I've taken steps in the coaching and in the management, you know, how much that the coaches and the parents actually sacrificed to get us there, you know, Tuesday, Thursday to training, to get us to games on a Saturday, was, you know, second to none. And it's something that I'm probably so much more grateful for now, looking back a little bit older. You know, and I had 2 or 3 great years at Seapatrick, made some lifelong friends there, and then moved on to Lisburn. Fantastic, you know, played with some really good players there, that went on to make, you know, great careers for themselves, whether that be in England or Scotland or in the Irish League. You know, some really highly decorated players, and even in Irish League football. Yeah. And it gave me an opportunity then. I was scouted to go to the Manchester United School of Excellence. The late great Eddie Coulter was the famous scout for Manchester United. Picked me up and, you know, spent 2 or 3 years travelling backwards and forwards, you know, at weekends, school holidays, to Manchester United. Was very fortunate to go and play in numerous tournaments. The Dallas Cup in America being the highlight of that. So got a really good sort of grounding in football. Learned an awful lot through that. and got the opportunity then through Willie McKeown, who was the scout for Coventry City at the time, who was really, really keen to take me to Coventry. Went and had a look at the club, and they put a contract on the table right there and then. They were happy with what they'd seen. I went over and had a look around the club, got the opportunity to train, was introduced to all the staff, the first team manager, and it was a decision that I made very, very quickly that I wanted to go. I wanted to be a professional footballer. I wanted to be a full-time footballer, and it was a great education in the game that Coventry gave me. That some of the players that I played with, was fortunate, training every day with top quality players, and they had a really, really good staff right throughout the club in all the different areas, all the different roles. Really, really good people that put the players, first. Yeah. And bent over backwards on numerous occasions for everyone, just to make sure everyone felt safe and secure, and make sure that we were all looked after.
Brilliant. I had a guest on previously, Sean Lavery. He talked about getting over to Leeds United and how that intensity picks up. So for yourself as a goalkeeper, and for us outfield players that really don't understand or appreciate it, that intensity for competition when it's one man or two men fighting for one position, just give us an insight. Is that intensity as it's portrayed on the screen?
Yeah, it's ferocious, to be honest with you. And the one thing that you find with the goalkeeping the goalkeeping union, as it's called, there's a great bond, a great camaraderie there. But in the back of your mind, from Monday to Friday, you're constantly competing with the other 2-3 guys around you, because you want to be that number one, you want to be the one that's playing. And I've always said right throughout my career, it's great being a professional footballer and everything that brings, but training every day to sit on the bench on a Saturday or a Tuesday night, or whenever the games may be, there's nothing worse. You want to be playing, you want to be in the team. So for as much as yes, you're close knit and there's a good bond there's a healthy working relationship, there is a fierce competition that you're pushing each other day in, day out, because ultimately come 1:30 on a Saturday or 6:30 on a Tuesday night, when the manager names a team, you want to be the goalkeeper, you want to be the one that's playing, you want to be the number one at the club. So you actually learn a lot from that as well, in terms of how to handle those situations of both playing and not playing. Because for me as a player, you can't waver in your attitude and how you conduct yourself with other players. At the end of the day, if you're not playing as a goalkeeper, it's not the other goalkeeper's fault. It's either yours or the manager doesn't. The manager just thinks the other goalkeeper's better. Mm-hmm. So you can't. It doesn't become personal, and that's one thing that I've always tried to maintain throughout my career, that my issue isn't with the other goalkeeper. If I haven't worked as hard as him in training, or I haven't been as good as him in training or in games, then that's up to the manager to pick who he thinks is the better goalkeeper to play in the team, given that particular game.
Fair enough. So that epitomises the professional approach, which obviously you've bought into a long time ago. So what age were you when you were in Coventry? Just for the timeline?
So I first went to Coventry when I was 14. Finished about a year and a half of schooling at Coventry, and then signed my first professional contract at 17. But I was actually in full-time training from just after my 16th birthday. Then, whenever I finished school, so I was in the full-time environment from 16. Coventry was still big on the education side of it. John Bloxham was the education officer, had great links with schools all throughout the area, also with colleges. We still had to go then to college and do a BTEC for 18 months after we'd finished school. So it was, we'd massive sort of juggling skills through into it all, between being a professional footballer, being a full-time footballer, but also having to have that focus and drive in terms of your education and getting something to fall back on, because as we all know, and we've seen it over the years with numerous players, that not everyone makes it to the highest level, or people get bad injuries and have to retire. And as I say, Coventry gave me a massive education in football and in life, and it's something that I think that it's really stood by me to this day.
Oh, fantastic. Again, talking to Sean, we've talked to previous guests about how the structures changed. You were over there at 14 years of age, and you had your education, your football education at a very young age. The Irish League trend at the minute is players going over there as men nearly, 18, 19, 20, 21, and you're seeing more kids succeeding. Do you think that structure's, proven to be the way forward?
I think, to be totally honest with you, I think it's a really fine line. I think it's great that more Irish League clubs are giving younger players an opportunity to play in the first team week in, week out, and they're getting their education here in terms of playing in men's football, if you like, where it's competitive and they're getting that physical side of the game, but they're also learning from a young age the understanding of the importance of winning games of football. At the end of the day, the most important thing is winning games of football. Whether that's putting 3 points on the board on a Saturday or a Tuesday night, or whether it's getting into the next round of a cup, they're getting that education, which is massive. The difficult side of it over the years has proven where I think there's almost been a little bit of an age cap put on it at times. You've obviously got one or two exceptions where people go a little bit later because they're an exceptional talent. But I do think there's a fine line in terms of that age range where clubs will think, oh, well, we've got someone at 25, 26 who's only 20 minutes down the road. They can drive in, drive out, instead of having to bring someone over and the expense of accommodations and living and different things like that can play a factor. But I think the big credit has to go to the Irish League clubs for giving more younger players the opportunity to play now from their maybe 16, 17, and they're getting that real good grounding and understanding of the importance of playing in competitive football. Yeah. Whereas you look at some lads that go a little bit younger and they're maybe playing in, an under-18 team in England or Scotland, or an under-20s, where, yeah, you still want to win, but it's not the be-all and end-all, because they look at it as development football, where they're trying to make them into players that can find a pathway to the first team. Whereas when you come to first team level, if you're not good enough, the clubs nowadays, they just go and buy someone that is. Yeah. So I do think Irish League clubs deserve a massive amount of credit for what they're doing, but I'm a little bit cautious with it at times, because I do think there's a fine line in terms of the sort of age cap that's being portrayed, if you like, where clubs maybe turn a blind eye, or they go and look for something else because the age of certain players. No,
great, as I say, a lot of content there to ponder. So your Coventry career, moving forward then, beyond that was Partick Thistle. You got yourself a move to Glasgow?
Yeah, probably, if I'm totally honest, didn't really break into the first team at Coventry regularly. And it was a conversation with the manager at the time, Mickey Adams, that it was maybe more beneficial for me to go and play week in, week out. So the opportunity came around to go up to Scotland, to go to Partick. And if I'm totally honest, in terms of my professional career, my full-time career was probably the best 4 years in terms of playing consistently, playing week in, week out, where I had the most joy, the most success as a player. And again, that competitive edge of having to win games of football, having to compete with Kenny Arthur, that was the other goalkeeper there at the time, was the established number one before I signed. It took me about 6 months to break into the team. Once I did, I stayed in for about, as I say, 4 years. Played regularly. Made, I think it was nearly 150 appearances or something like that for for Partick. So it was excellent, really, really good to be in a competitive league. Having had that education of winning games of football, how you conduct yourself as a player, previously at Coventry, to go up there and learn my trade, and that real desire to want to get better, to want to play every week, to want to prove myself, and as I say, the people, the club, Partick Thistle as a whole was fantastic for me, and a thoroughly enjoyable time.
Fantastic, and as you said, you became a fan's favourite with the fans dedicating a song to you, and that song is available on Amazon. We'll maybe put a link up to it after we record here.
Yeah, Flip, that was it was a long time ago now, but listen, I got on great with the fans. It really helped me sort of settle in at the club, and as I say, playing consistently, playing every week, you do build that rapport, and thankfully I look back on my time at Partick with really fond memories, and as I said, just a really, really good club with really good people around it.
And then your Northern Ireland career, did that coincide with the time at Partick Thistle?
Yeah, it did. I was actually playing at Partick. I've been playing for about maybe 6-8 months in the first team, and we were actually on the way to a game. We just got on the bus to go to play Dundee in the Cup. And the secretary handed me a letter. It was obviously from the IFA, saying that I'd been called up to the senior international squad, and I actually started laughing. I'll be honest with you, I read the letter, I started laughing. I walked back down the bus to hand the letter back to the secretary, and I went, "Guy, good joke, you're winding me up." And she said to me, she says, "No, I'm deadly serious. It's true, Bill. You've been called up to the squad." So it was unbelievable, because it was something that was so far off my radar, to be honest with you, at the time. I was so focused on playing at Partick and trying to do the best that I could for the team first and foremost, and obviously for myself to be established as the number one and keep performing, to keep learning. And it was unbelievable. I remember actually phoning my parents on the way to the game and telling them, and just sheer delight. And then it was obviously trying to cage that emotion and that delight going into the game. But, after the game, it was like, it just overwhelmed, to be honest, that I was actually called into the senior international squad.
Fantastic. And any standout memories? Tats has listed one here. Your penalty save against Pazzini.
Yeah, obviously that was probably the highlight of my international career. My debut's always something that I'll never forget. Coming on at Windsor Park, I think it was about 12,000, 14,000 people in the stadium. I came on at half time against Hungary. Was obviously very, very special, because it's the first time you've put on the jersey and played. And then my first start was obviously against Italy, in Italy. And although we were beat on the night, to save a penalty against the Italians is something that's, it'll always be a proud moment, and something that'll live long in my memory.
Fantastic. So take us through the eyes of Jonny Tuffey during the penalty. Was it one-on-one with Bazzini? Do you normally research the penalty takers before it, or is it instinct on the day?
To be fair, usually more in cup competitions, you would sort of do your homework and that on different players taking different penalties. It was an international game. It was actually just at the end of the season, so I hadn't actually sort of looked into, because to be fair, the Italians had changed their squad a little bit in terms of players that they'd brought in and stuff, so I hadn't actually done any homework. It was just heat of the moment, 1v1, and thankfully I guessed the right way and managed to touch it onto the post. And even when you do touch it onto the post, you're thinking, is this bouncing in, is it bouncing out? And thankfully it stayed out.
Brilliant. As I say, quite a few highlights there to reminisce about. So tell us where you're at now. Well, we want to talk about the controversy of the semi-final sending off, and then your heroics, let's call it that, in the cup final. Not quite Alison Becker, but an assist to bring it.
No, to be fair, if I'd have kept my eyes open, it might have been something similar to the Alison Beckers at West Brom. But listen, it was one of them. But as you say, going back to the last season to the semi-final against Larne, you know, it was devastating, to be honest. It probably took for us to go on and win the Irish Cup this season to really put the emotions and the hurt of that game to bed. You know, ultimately at the end of the day, whether other people see it this way or not, you know, the most important thing to me is how I see it and how I view it, and ultimately I cost our team and our club on that day. I'm adamant the referee was wrong in terms of the third decision he gave. You know, I've watched it back numerous times. Stephen Craigan was on commentary that day in the studio. I've spoken to Stephen afterwards, and even he said, you know, there's no way the referee could be 100% sure in terms of the third penalty that he actually gave me the red card. So that was a bitter pill to swallow. It was really annoying, and as I say, the overall frustration was I'd let the club down, I'd let my teammates down, and it really hurt, to be honest. But it gave me a massive focus, a massive determination to put things right. You know, and you know, as a team as a whole, it hurt, and it gave everyone that determination to try and rectify it this season. And you know, thankfully we've gone on to lift the Irish Cup, and as I say, it's taken that this season. You know, it's taken a full year to probably put those ghosts to bed.
No, brilliant. I have actually a question referencing that. So as well, you know, you simply cannot make a mistake as a goalkeeper. Unlike any other position, you very rarely get bailed out by your teammates. Therefore, you have to be incredibly strong mentally. Whether it's been extremely concentrated in terms of not making an error, or if you do make a mistake, showing resilience to bounce back. So any goalkeepers listening, is there any advice you would give a young goalkeeper or even more experienced goalkeepers that experience that tough patch?
I think you've actually hit the nail on the head there when you say experienced goalkeepers. I think it becomes a lot easier to deal with mistakes or you know, errors, if you like. The older you get, the more experienced you get in the game. But I think the more you can try and put the mistakes to bed at a younger age and become resilient to them, you know, the better it is for you. And look, it's hard when you're younger because you analyse every little thing, and you almost have that sense of, oh, flip me, everybody's looking at me, everybody's watching me, that's my fault, I've dropped one. And it's cost the team a goal or a game. But it's getting that fine balance between being confident and not being arrogant. Because every goalkeeper throughout a season will earn his team, her team, numerous points. You know, and that, again, that's something that I learned as I got older, as I got more experienced in the game. Yeah, there'll be times where you maybe cost your team a game as a goalkeeper, but make no doubts about it, there will be times throughout a season that you will earn your team points. And I think you've got to be very, very single-minded in your approach to the game, your preparation to the game, in terms of when you're at training, when you're away from training. And as long as you leave no stone unturned in your preparations, mistakes happen. They happen in everyday life, whether that's your 9-to-5 job or it's on a football pitch. Mistakes happen. You're not going to get everything right all of the time. But it's obviously being a strong enough character to deal with that. And as I said, it does come with experience, but the quicker you can learn to process the mistake, realise what you've done wrong and how you can correct it, then, you know, I think that's the most important thing. And look, it's not a crime to make a mistake. It's a crime not to learn from it. You know, if you make the same mistake 5, 6, 7 times throughout a season, then there's a problem. If you make it once or twice, you know, I personally don't think it's a massive issue.
No, brilliant. You're talking like a coach there, and I know that you are involved in coaching now. Just before we get into this, talking about the coaching, just talk us through the Irish Cup final then, and sort of the fallout from that, the joy, let's call it that.
Well, for 75 minutes, probably 80 minutes, it was agony. We'd obviously gone 1-0 down, and look, I make no bones about it. We were second best at Ballymena for long periods of the game. They'd obviously a game plan that they'd worked on. They came and executed it perfectly, probably up until about 80 minutes. Then we started to sort of get a foothold, a real foothold in the game. Don't get me wrong, we had a couple of opportunities, but probably around 75, 80 minutes we started to get a real foothold in the game. We started to apply more pressure. And thankfully we got the equaliser at a great time for us, a horrible time for Ballymena, but a great time for us. And it probably knocked the wind out of their sails a little bit. And we felt if we could just hang in there, we could keep on the front foot throughout extra time. We might nick one. And I don't think anybody could have foreseen, Johnny McMurray hitting the ball as well as he did for the winner. Virtually the last kick of the game. 2 perfect times to score goals for us. 2 heartbreaking times for Ballymena. So from 75 minutes of going, oh no, here we go again. We've went one further than last season, but now we're going to have the heartbreak again to very quickly within the next sort of 45 minutes having that joy and jubilation of actually going on to win the cup was, it was fantastic for everyone in terms of the Crusaders side of it.
Yeah, brilliant. And I've seen just a video highlight. You brought your son onto the pitch, and obviously nothing can be achieved without those that support you in the background, and so it probably means more to you for them than for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I've said it numerous times, and I mean it every time I say it. I'm so blessed to have the family I do. My wife, my son, my mum and dad. They give me so much support, so much backing. I'm away at football so much of the time, and they understand that so much. But just to have that support and that love and care, they give me everything that I need to be able to perform to the best of my ability, is fantastic to have. And to have my wife, my son on the pitch, my wife in the stand with my mum and dad at the final whistle was, I was emotional, to be honest, and it was a very, very proud moment for me, and it was nice that they could celebrate, good days like that in football as well, because don't get me wrong, they've been through the hard days and the heartache as well. They've seen the bad side of it, they've seen the downside, they've seen me at my worst, and it's nice to be able to give them something back and actually let them enjoy seeing me happy and at my best in terms of the football side of things.
No, fantastic. I'm delighted for you. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
So I did touch on it there, but you're also, football is your life, all consuming from 14 years of age. You're also running after Crusader strikers, the ladies game.
Yeah, obviously my wife was a player there, still registered as a player, doing a little bit more of the coaching now. So initially I was asked to come in and do a little bit of coaching with the goalkeepers there at the time. So I was more than happy to do that. Things progressed relatively quickly then. Spike Hill was the manager at the time. He'd asked me to be his assistant manager. So it gave me an opportunity then to be more active in terms of coaching with the team, with the outfield players. So it was a great opportunity, a great education into that side of it, into the coaching side of it. And then Spike decided to part ways with the club about probably just shy of a year ago. The club asked me to take interim charge till the end of the season. So we'd actually 2 cup semi-finals to navigate, plus the rest of the league campaign. So talk about being thrown into the deep end, but it was thoroughly enjoyable, and as I say, it's given me a great opportunity to cut my teeth in management, to learn the other side of it, how you deal with players, how you deal with people. I think that's a massive factor. You've got to know your players as people, first and foremost. You can see the strengths, the weaknesses. You can see the ability that they have on a football pitch when you train, when you play. But the massive side of it for me is, as being a manager now, is getting to know your players as people, and that's not being nosy into people's personal lives and things like that. That's just understanding them, trying to figure out what makes them tick, what they need, being able to give them the support that they need, making them aware that you're here, you're available for them to come and speak to you about whatever they might need to. So it's been excellent, as I said. It's an opportunity that I'm very, very grateful for, and I'm very thankful, to the club for giving me that.
And listening to your backstory, you're leaning on all them experiences, and the girls or the team, the ladies that you're looking after, I'm sure they'll take a lot from your vast words and knowledge that you've expressed even here tonight. Best of luck.
Well, thank you, and look, I hope they do. As I said, I've worked under some fantastic managers in my time, and played with some fantastic players, and you always try and take bits and pieces from all of them. At the end of the day, I want to be my own man. I want to be my own manager. But I would be lying if I said I haven't picked up bits and pieces along the way that you think are good. You also pick up bits and pieces that you maybe haven't necessarily agreed with, or you haven't liked as a player, and you try and make sure that you get it right. And look, I'm not always going to get it right. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. There'll be times I get the team wrong or whatever, but it won't be for the want of trying. And as I say, just want to call upon all my experience to try and give the girls the best opportunity that I can, for them to go and progress as players and go and really fulfil what they want to do with their careers.
No, brilliant. And again, the girls' game's flourishing at the minute. I run after the girls' academy at our own club, and the influx of numbers and the participation's fantastic, and long may it last.
No, absolutely. It's been fantastic to see. My wife, she's the head of the academy at Crusaders, with the girls side of it, and even just off the back of the success of the women's senior international team, qualifying for the Euros and bits and pieces like that. It's been phenomenal. Just to see the influx, as you said, of players, young girls wanting to get involved in football, wanting to join clubs. They want to train, they want to play. Even the number of spectators, both male and female, now going to the women's games. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's long overdue, and long may it continue, if you ask my opinion.
No, 100%. I'm with you, 100%. That's great, Jonny. Listen, we'll rattle through the Keepie Uppies questions. I hope you've done your homework.
Yeah. I've been racking my brains, to be fair.
Everybody said the exact same thing. So we'll say kick back to the Keepie Uppies questions straight in. So the best team you ever played for?
Best team I ever played for was probably the second year of Partick Thistle. We finished a point behind St Johnstone in the race to win the league. Just absolutely phenomenal. Great team spirit, great togetherness, some top players in there. And I'll be honest with you, very, very similar to what we have at Crusaders now in terms of the changing room. The bond, the togetherness of the group, and look, I've played under some fantastic managers, played in some fantastic teams. Even when I was at Glenavon, the year we won the Irish Cup, my first season there, we had a fantastic group there as well. Some really, really top players, really, really good characters. But I would say the Partick Thistle team in my second year there, that we just fell. I think it was a point short of promotion that season.
Brilliant. All right, best captain.
Best captain I ever played under, and I was very fortunate to play under a few. And I'll actually give you two. The best captain I played under at club level was Alan Archibald at Partick Thistle. Alan was a stalwart at the club. Huge character. Real top professional. So driven, so focused in in his approach to football, how he trained, how he played, how he conducted himself on and off the pitch, but how selfless he was in terms of protecting the squad, being there for the squad, fighting the battles that sometimes captains have to fight between the playing squad and the staff, and communicating messages, being that sort of link, if you like, between the manager and the players and the manager. He was second to none in terms of that, and also playing under Aaron Hughes, in the international squad. Hughes, he was different class. He's an absolute gem of a human being, and how Hughes conducted himself, both as a player, as a captain, was phenomenal.
And played late in his 30s as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, how he looked after himself, how he trained, how he prepared, everything was absolutely phenomenal, and such a learning curve for me as a young lad breaking into the squad at the time. Just to be around players like that was phenomenal.
Brilliant. All right, best goal scorer.
I'll give you two again if I can, because I can't separate them. At club level, it was Stern John, Trinidad and Tobago international, played for Birmingham in the Premier League, came to Coventry. Stern was just an absolute fox in the box. The ball came into the 18-yard box and Stern just came alive. Ball fell to him in the box. You just knew he was going to score. You just always had that feeling that he was going to score a goal. And again, going into the international setup and playing with David Healy, his record speaks for itself, and David could score all types of goals, from 2-yard tap-ins to 30-yard lobs over the top of Iker Casillas against Spain. He had everything, and he was even one of them in training. He never missed a target. And people say that about other people, and they say it on a whim, but honestly, David never used to miss a target in training. As a goalkeeper, you're thinking, go on, hit one wide, hit one over the bar, give me a breather. He was relentless. It was just constantly target after target after target. And, I think what he achieved for Northern Ireland in terms of his goal scoring was, you can't speak highly enough of the man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, best touch.
Best touch was Stephen Hughes. Played with him at Coventry. Stephen came from Watford. He went from Arsenal to Watford, and then he came to Coventry, and just an absolute genius of a footballer. Played in the middle of the park, and honestly, I've never seen anyone with a touch like it. You actually just thought he played with a pair of slippers on. It was phenomenal. Whether it was somebody wrapping a 5-yard pass into him or a 75-yard pass, he just used to kill the ball there. It was incredible.
Good. All right, best goalkeeper
that I've played with.
Yeah.
I would have to say the goalie. I would have to say Andy Gorham. And getting to train with your hero and someone that you looked up to, and someone that you idolised as a young lad. To get the opportunity to train alongside him was unbelievable.
No, brilliant. All right, the next three: best defender, best midfielder, and best striker.
Best defender, Jonny Evans. I'd actually played with Johnny when I was at the younger age groups. Played with him right throughout the Northern Ireland setup, 17s, 19s, 21s. Played with him in the senior international team, and what Johnny's gone on to achieve in his career is testament to him as a person first and foremost, and also as a footballer. Just an incredible guy with an incredible talent that he's made the most of. He was different class. Best midfielder was Stephen Davis. Played against Davo when I was at Partick, when he was at Rangers. Got to play with him in the international team, and again, absolute legend of his craft. You still see him playing now, and every time he plays, he's still the best player on the pitch. He's just an absolute genius of a footballer.
And always underrated.
Always, when he played in the Premier League, he was so underrated. And it probably took Davo to go to Rangers to get the accolades and the credit that he fully deserved. when he really established himself in the senior international team, the plaudits weren't, they were never doing Devo justice. And as I say, he's still the main man, for Northern Ireland, and long may it continue. Delighted to see him sign a new contract at Rangers, and hopefully that keeps him about the international setup for another year or two as well. That'll be great for those young lads that are coming into the squad now under Ian Barraclough to learn and just take in when they're in the squad, and really appreciate what Devo does. He's second to none. Best striker, I'll go with Stern John. He was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. As I say, it's hard to separate him and David Healy, but I'll go with Stern. I can't go with all the Northern Ireland legends, can I?
Brilliant. All right, best left foot and then best right foot.
Oh, best left foot was Chris Brunt. Oh my goodness me, I've never seen a left foot like it in my life. Yeah, Bronte had everything. Whether it was, a 5-yard pass, a 10-yard pass, whether it was pinging 175 yards, whether it was his delivery from set pieces, penalties, free kicks, you name it, Bronte could do it. What an absolute genius of a left foot. Just phenomenal. So Chris Brunt.
Best right foot
then? Simon Donnelly. Played with Simon at Partick. He'd gone from Celtic to Sheffield Wednesday, and then he'd come back up to Scotland. He signed for Partick whenever I was there. Again, just phenomenal. Some of the things Simon could do with a football were different class. It was beyond belief to some people. The fans and players, and he was excellent, and he was pivotal to everything that we achieved at Partick whenever I was there.
Brilliant. All right, best manager?
David Jeffrey. Absolute legend of the game. Make no bones about that. I've played under some terrific managers. Played under Terry Butcher when I was at Inverness. Currently playing under Stephen Baxter. Both terrific managers in their own right, what they've achieved as players and as managers. But David Jeffrey's he's just a special man. Someone I've grown very, very close to. And what he's achieved in the game, and you talk about a manager knowing his players, what his players, David knows all his players, he knows all their families. He could probably tell you every player's pet's name that he's had over the flipping 22 years he's been managing. He's just so in depth, so much knowledge, and the time and care and consideration that he gives to every single player, every single member of staff is just phenomenal. So yeah, David Jeffrey's the best manager I've ever played for.
Brilliant. As you say, you're managing individuals, you're managing people, and whatever makes them tick off the pitch might help them tick on the pitch. So it's important to.
Yeah, of course, absolutely, and you've hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, you're managing people, and I think that's where a lot of people get lost. You're not a footballer, whether you're male or female. You're not a footballer at any level, at any club, because you're a bad player.
Yeah.
You've obviously got some level of ability. You're obviously a decent player, so you can always make people better footballers. Coaches will always try their best to make people better footballers, but you can't always make people, better people. You can't always make them better people, and look, that's for me the most important thing. You've got to figure them out. You've got to appreciate them as people, what makes them tick, and I think that makes it a hell of a lot easier to make them better footballers.
100% agree. 100%. All right, which player loves a hard challenge?
There's only one winner, Chris Lindsay. Played with Chris at Glenavon. Absolute warrior. I've never known anyone like it. I've seen Chris, playing games where you're thinking you shouldn't even be out of bed, mate. You should be lying in bed. And that man's getting himself flipping held together with more tape than you would ever think could be produced. And he just turned out and churned out unbelievable performances. Absolute warrior of a man. absolute warrior of a footballer, and someone again I was very lucky to play with, someone that I built a very good friendship with, and there's no one loves a tackle more than Big Chris.
Brilliant. All right, quickest player.
Oh, flip me, that's the one that's actually got me. The rest of them were pretty straightforward. Quickest player I've ever played with. There's been a few. I'm trying to sort of figure out here who was actually the quickest. I would. Let me see. I would probably have to say Joel Cooper.
Okay.
When I played him at Glenavon, Joel was absolutely lightning. A lot of people, for a winger, Joel was so well built. Honestly, the lad had so much muscle, so much stature, and people probably thought he wasn't as quick as what he was because he was that well built and he was a little bit smaller and stocky. But honestly, Joel was lightning. And what a career he's gone on to have across the water. He's went across the water and stuff. I know he's back at the Blues now. But yeah, Joel was absolutely lightning. Josh Daniels, another one that I played with at Glenavon, absolutely lightning quick.
All right. Shout out to them boys. Best all-round player.
Again, Stephen Davis.
Yeah.
The best I've ever played with. Very, very fortunate that I can call Davo a friend, someone I spent a lot of time with when I lived in Glasgow. And again, just a really, really good person, really good guy. Always has time for everyone. And his football ability, I wouldn't have the words to do him justice in terms of his footballing ability. For me, he's second to none.
Brilliant. As I say, it's only when he retires that they'll actually sit down and realise just how good he was.
Oh, definitely.
All right, last two here then. So, player that got better with age, and then player who always gave 100%.
Player that got better with age. I would probably say Kevin Braniff that I played with at Glenavon. Kevin always had a bit of a reputation, for being a wee bit of a loose cannon and stuff. And I mean that with the greatest of respect, because when I signed for Glenavon, Kevin was someone that I actually grew very close to and built a really good friendship with. And I think as Kevin got a bit older, it was more people's perception of Kevin changed than what Kevin did as a person or as a player. And Kevin's ability again was absolutely phenomenal. You don't go and play for Millwall and the amount of times that Kevin did and have the career that he did, without being a good footballer. And I think that was the big thing with Kevin, that, people's perception of him changed. And again, another phenomenal talent. The ability that man had was scary. And I think, in the latter stages of his career, particularly with Portadown and with Glenavon, we've probably really seen the best of Kevin. And I think a lot more people, in terms of fans, started to really appreciate just how good a footballer he was. Again,
looking at that, maybe the management that was involved as well were able to tap into the individual and get a song out of him.
Yeah, of course. As I said to you, it's the most important thing. You've got to manage the person, find what makes them tick, and, credit to Ronnie McFall and Gary Hamilton. They obviously done that, and, I think, Kevin at Portadown and at Glenavon, we certainly seen the best of them.
100%. All right, last one then. The player who always gave 100%.
Player that always gave 100%. Really easy one for me. Kieran Martin, someone I played with at Glenavon. Just didn't know when to start. Was just ferocious in everything he done, everything he, whether it was training, playing. He was just, again, coming to the end of his career. Kieran was maybe 37 at the time when I signed at Glenavon, and to see how he conducted himself, to see how he operated was fantastic. And it was a really difficult decision, that one, between him and Robbie Weir, someone that I'm playing with at the minute.
Yeah.
Robbie's 33 now, and again, meticulous in everything he does. What a guy, what a footballer. And you talk about probably being underrated. I think Robbie doesn't get half as much of the credit that he deserves. You talk about someone understanding the game, knowing the game inside out, what he brings to a team, what he brings to a changing room. He's a huge character. What he's achieved in England in his time there with Sunderland, with Burton, back-to-back promotions at Burton Albion, absolutely phenomenal. To be honest with you, it'd be really difficult to separate Kieran and Robbie, as I say, two fantastic lads and two top professionals.
No, brilliant. Appreciate that. I say a brave few shout-outs there, a brave few legends mentioned.
Yeah, I've been very lucky, very, very lucky. People will say, "Oh, you're name dropping and that," but very lucky throughout my career to play with some fantastic players.
Exactly that, and that's what it's about: reflecting and giving a shout out, celebrating football friends. We're going to finish Absolutely. Up with the Wheel of Berba. Now, the Wheel of Berba is just a question, so we'll spin the Wheel of Berba. Now, I have sound effects here, so the production standards. So that's the wheel has been spun. And the question that it's landed on...
You might catch me out here now. You might catch me out.
Don't fear. It's just an opinion. So, Wheel of Berba. So, Ian Barclough is under a fair amount of pressure after some frustrating results and performances for Northern Ireland. Do you feel he's the right man for the job and just needs more time? Or is this the beginning of the end for
Ian? Very good question that I've been asked numerous times, and the answer I'm going to give is the same as what I've answered previously, and I've been told that I'm sitting on the fence, but it's my honest opinion. I think it's twofold. I think it was always going to be really difficult to follow in the footsteps of Michael O'Neill. I think it's very similar to if you go back to the Alex Ferguson one, to be the man that came after, Alex Ferguson, to be the man that came after, Sir Alex, I should say, the man that came after Michael O'Neill. I always thought it would be incredibly difficult. The one thing I would say is the squad is certainly in a transition period. I think there's a lot of new players that have been brought in to try and plug them into the group, to give them experience. I'm also very aware that it's a results-based business, even in international football, that the fans, they pay their money, they're entitled to their opinion, they want results, they want good performances. You don't always get time as a manager. The powers that be will obviously decide that with Ian Barclough. But for me, the one thing that I would say is when you still have the likes of Johnny Evans, Steve Davis around the group, these younger players will learn no end. There will be no end to what they learn and how, if they do learn and they take it on board, how they will flourish from that will be very, very good. And I think if he's given the time, I think you'll see the benefits in terms of blooding the young players in now, giving so many of them an opportunity. But again, that's a question that the powers that be will have to answer. Are they prepared to ignore the outside noise, and they're prepared to stick with him and give him the time that he needs to blood the younger players in, to give them the experience that they need, so that Northern Ireland, so that we as a nation, as a country, reap the benefits of that? Or do they jump ship and bring someone else in? But the one thing you've got to remember for me is, if they bring someone else in, you might have another 6-8 players that come into the group. You might have 6 or 8 that drop out, and you might have a manager that's got his eye on 6 or 8 other players that he wants to bring in. So you still got to give time for them to blend in and find a way to play within another manager's philosophy, another manager's style of play. So again, I know I sound like I'm sitting on the fence, but I personally think given the right amount of time, I think long term you'll see the benefits. And look, that could be 18 months, that could be 2 years. And as I say, whether the association are prepared to wait that long, the powers that be, people way above my pay grade will make that decision. But I do just think with having Stephen Davis, Johnny Evans, even the likes of Kyle Lafferty, who's been about it for years, Niall McGinn's been about the squad for years, all seasoned internationals, big characters. The younger lads will benefit from those players, from the experiences. And look, let's make no bones about it. Ian Barclough's done a fantastic job with the 21s. Yeah. He's got the pedigree, he's got the CV. So, whether the powers that be, as I said, are prepared to give him the time, give his staff the time, I think if they do, certainly the experience the younger players are having now will reap the benefits. And as I say, it's always easy to make a change. It's always easy to say, no, we're bringing someone else in. But you've also got a transition period. Every time you change a manager, whether it's a club level or international period, you've got a transition period of, that could be 2 months if it works really well. It could be 18 months if it takes a little bit longer. That a new manager has got, to get his players in that he wants, to get the right system that works for the players that he's got. And ultimately the most important thing is to get putting points on the board when it comes to competitive games.
100%. I'd say it's not that you're sitting on the fence, but talk about learning from mistakes. Mistakes, you can learn from other people's mistakes as well. And you mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson at his club and how they changed philosophy and changed approach and changed manager because it wasn't the old way. You have to give somebody time to establish themselves. I think people would still be calling for David Moyes, the Manchester United manager. Having seen what went.
Absolutely.
Through,
I listened to an interview David Moyes done there a couple of weeks ago, and he's saying that maybe the Manchester United job came too early for him. He feels he's producing his best as a manager now at West Ham, and I think you've seen that this season with the Europa League campaign and also with where West Ham finished in the Premier League. So we all learn as footballers, as managers, as people in everyday life. You learn with experience. You learn, as you get older, you learn from the mistakes you make. So, sometimes it's better the devil and I'm 100% adamant that if they decide to stick with Ian Barclough, then I do think long term we'll reap the rewards of the younger players getting the opportunities that they're getting now.
No, brilliant. Thank you. Just to round things up then, Tuffers, if you don't mind me calling you that. The future for you. So management's in the pipeline. You're actually managing now, but your playing career is very much still in its pump. What's your plans moving forward?
No, look, first and foremost, I'm a player. I've always said that, even when I took the managerial role, I'm a player. I have 2 years left on my contract. I'm as hungry as ever to be successful. I've always said as long as the club want me, as long as Stephen Baxter wants me as a player, as long as I'm contributing to the team, I want to play as long as I can. But when you get to 35, you do start thinking that you've got to look at life beyond a player. And as I said, I'm just thoroughly grateful for the opportunity that the women's game has presented me with to cut my teeth at management. So, make no bones about it. I'm fully focused on playing. I want to be the best I can be as a player. I've still got things I want to achieve. And as long as I'm performing and Stephen wants me in the team, then, I'll be available to play and I want to continue doing that. But as I say, I do have aspirations after playing. And thankfully the two have coincided. They haven't interfered with each other. I always said that even when I took the managerial role, that if I couldn't give 100% of that when I'm not training or I'm not playing, then I wouldn't take that, because I think that's unfair. I think it's disrespectful to the girls. And, thankfully the two of them have worked hand in hand. Both have allowed me to give my time and attention to both when I need to do that. And, that's where I'm at. Want to play as long as I possibly can. And, as I said, I want to keep cutting my teeth, keep learning, keep improving as a manager as well.
No, fantastic. Say your enthusiasm and say your drive is booming through the speakers here. So I wish you every success, and thank you for dropping in and playing a game of Keepie Uppies. Really, really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Take care. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.